Earth. Fire. Water. Air.
Hey yo, what's good? Welcome to The Gist with me, Jared. I've got some special guests here with me today, and I'll let them introduce themselves. Go ahead.
What's up, everybody? You may know me from the Last of Us video, but my hair is a little different. My name is Jed. Good to see you.
Hello, I'm Jacob Ellis Reyes. I'm very pleased to be here.
Awesome. So we just got done watching Avatar: The Last Airbender, the live-action adaptation on Netflix. All of us had watched this series when we were younger, quite a long time ago, and we were wanting to binge watch the entire season, and we were fresh off a few hours of sleep from binge watching the first season of Avatar: The Last Airbender. So if you're not familiar with the story, there are 4 different nations who control the elements: air, water, fire, and earth. So the 4 nations used to live at peace, but then the Fire Nation decided to attack. And then the Avatar is the being who controls all 4 different elements. He had vanished and now is returned. So, with the first season of this live-action adaptation, what are your initial non-spoiler thoughts as far as how you felt like this first season went? Jed, we'll start with you.
Non-spoiler impressions of Season 1, Avatar: The Last Airbender. I thought that it was pretty good. I will actually give it probably 6 to 7 out of 10. I think that they kept pretty faithful to the source material, the cartoon, and with what they were trying to do in regards to the cartoon, I thought it was fun. But then there were just other things that I feel that maybe they didn't do too well in terms of adapting it from cartoon to live action. But overall, I think that it was still an enjoyable watch. And as an old fan of the Avatar: The Last Airbender, I thought it was pretty all right in terms of like as an homage to the old cartoon. So,
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I thought the show was fairly good, even though I came off from it not very pleased with what we got. I'm obviously somebody who cares a little more for the narrative and the story, and I thought it was a little bit shallow. It was a lot more kid-friendly and kid-centric instead of a more mature or higher brow, elevated kind of storytelling. A lot of the CGI I was really impressed with, even though it's not, Avatar Blue People level of CGI. But even with the bending, I really enjoyed that aspect. I like the combat that we saw, both with the bending and without the bending. And it really felt like this was a true adaptation for Avatar: The Last Airbender, but the animated series. All the casting was great. I love the Asian dominant cast, and I liked seeing the costuming. Everything felt like it's an actual in the Avatar world. And I think some things that I would say for somebody who's not familiar with the source material is that this is going to be a pretty tough show to grasp, being that a lot of what we see gives Easter eggs and nods to the animated series.
Right.
And I think because of how the narrative played out, it would be a little tough to grasp why the characters are doing certain things or why they're going to specific places.
Yeah.
Because I felt the story was pretty rushed. Like, we're getting to places really, really fast.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it's hard to compare this show to stand on its own versus what we were seeing in the animated series. I know we often took a pause after each episode to determine, well, did that actually happen in the animated show, or did it happen in this way in this live action adaptation? How did they do it again
in the cartoon? Like, what did they do then? Yeah.
Exactly. So I thought like some of those aspects were a bit challenging to try to disassociate the animated inspiration from the live action one, but also realize that they're trying to balance what we saw and give credence to the animated show, but then also make their own. And I have my own opinions on what they did well or didn't do well with the live action adaptation, but I think it's a decent show. Again, it's not anything narratively super compelling outside of maybe one character, and we can go over that in more spoilery detail here in a little bit. But overall, I thought the show was pretty decent. I think some aspects of it were a little unclear. It would be easier to tell this kind of story in the animated fashion like they did in the series. But when you transition to the live action format, I think there's a little bit more detail that's required in order to have a better narrative. But Jagger, what did you think as far as the live action adaptation in season 1?
You know, Jared, I really went into the show without expectations, and what I got was a live action adaptation of a show that I loved that was packed with detail and things heavy on the interpretive side. And with this live action show, I see the independence from the animated TV show into our live action series. And it was very simple and detail oriented. There were things, like you said, those references or those Easter eggs, those events that really tie the alignment between these two shows. And I feel they did a fantastic way of portraying that connection. So as an audience member, it was very enjoyable to see these characters come to life.
So I take it you like the show.
I don't know, I'd say that's really tough. I wouldn't say I'm in a position to where I like or dislike, but I'd say that I'm content with what we have so far, especially with noting how different and similar the animation to the live action series is.
Yeah, I would say there's definitely a lot of similarities, and they definitely give credence and nods to what we had seen in the animated show.